Right. Okay. Well, welcome to City Scotland Meetup. I'm Marcus Wilson from Pooka Co. We are we work with CiviCRM like many agencies, and I'm a co-director with my co-director here, Paul. We have Sean and Mads online as well, looking after things there. With Civi contributors, Civi Bronze partners as well. So we've worked with Civi for many years. My own personal journey with Civi started in about 2008. I was in a cultural sector charity, and we were using CiviCRM then for our contact management. And since 2010, we've been helping other charities, non-profits, membership organizations get to grips with Civi and use it in their own organizations. So this event last happened in November 2019. So the world's changed a bit since then. Everyone else went online and we didn't. Graham was leading the organisation of Civi meetups in Scotland back then. And we used to have quarterly meetups, and we're hoping that can happen again. The idea is that you can all come along, ask questions, share with each other how you're using Civi, how you're solving problems with Civi. And obviously we're one agency that can help, but having that network as well, I think, is really useful. And so you can also call on each other and work out what each other do on Civi and they get inspired as well. So this is the first of what we hope will be a series of quarterly meetups, and there'll probably be a bit of a presentation at each of these meetups. Someone will take a lead, talking about a specific area of Civi, bit of functionality in Civi, but then it will be more about just a general discussion and sharing and asking the questions, and between us, hopefully we can solve some of those questions, or at least partially answer some of them. So today we'll start with a bit of presentation. You've all used Civi before, have you? Okay. So I know there were people signed up who were looking for a bit of an intro, but what we'll do is we'll do a presentation first, and then if anyone wants a brief introduction to CiviCRM, we'll do that towards the end of your meeting so other people can get off if they'd like to. So what we're planning to cover today, because we haven't done one of these things for 6 years, is I thought it would be nice to cover 6 things that have happened in Civi over the last period since the last meetup. So what I'd like to cover is just a few things that might be useful in your own work using CiviCRM. So we'll talk a bit about Civi Standalone, the new admin look in CiviCRM, the new admin themes, menu search, CiviMobile, SearchKit, and form data. So we'll look through those to start off with. First of all, CiviCRM Standalone. So most of you, I think probably all of you, will probably run CiviCRM on some sort of content management system, whether that's WordPress, Drupal, Joomla, Backdrop. Who around the table uses WordPress? So about half WordPress. Drupal, using Drupal. About half using Drupal. Anyone still using Joomla? No one using Backdrop? Okay. So historically, you've had to install Civi on top of one of these content management systems. And I suppose the idea behind that is that the content management system handles the login and the authentication of users. That's sort of where the CMS comes in. But the content management system then can also allow you to expose Civi data to the wider world on your website, integrate a members login area to your website, and have some kind of integration with the real world. But it's always been necessary to have one of those, and Civi on one of those in the past. But over the last few years, Civi Standalone's been developed, so you no longer actually need to sit CiviCRM on one of those content management systems. And that can be useful, I suppose, if you're really just using CiviCRM in a back office way. You're just using it for admin and you're not really letting anyone, any of your members or the general public log in and do things with your CRM. And it can be useful if you want to do a bit more secure or really separate out your CRM from your website, have a complete compliant system. and then not have to worry about it being on a content management system that you're also there having to keep up to date and secure. So it's more about separation of these things. So what Civi has done is that they've launched Civi Standalone, and this is something that can be downloaded from the CiviCRM.org website, just as you can Civi for any of these other platforms. And it's a bit like installing WordPress or Joomla, or you go through these series of screens. You need to know how to set up a database on a server, but then you'll go through these steps when you install the software, and Civi will guide you through that on these screens. And once it's installed, then Civi then handles the login. You don't have to log in through WordPress or Drupal or anything like that. Civi then has that login interface, and that gets you into backend Civi. So that, as I say, can be really useful if you're not wanting your CiviCRM system to be reliant on a CMS. You just want to unhook it from that. So that's come along in the last few years. The other thing that you may have noticed when you logged into CiviCRM is that there are nice shiny new admin themes. How many think you're using the new admin themes in Civi? Okay, you see all that? Okay, it's one. Okay. So we all probably remember this. And this is what Civi looked like up to a few years ago. And this was probably, I've always thought, probably one of the main reasons which put people off using CiviCRM, because it looked like it was coded in 1990. So I think it was a bit over-facet, really. You might have been used to this look of CiviCRM, or if you're on WordPress, this was the original Greenwich admin theme in Civi. For those of you using WordPress, it might have looked a little bit more like this. This was the Rastock theme, which was developed by Christian Bach as part of his Civi admin plugin for WordPress. So a bit nicer, and it looks a bit more WordPressy, but it's still a bit much. So what's happened over the last few years is a new admin theming system called Rivoli has been set up, and it doesn't just give you one U theme, it gives you 4 streams, as they're called. So what's happened is that theme architecture has been overhauled. What they've tried to do is separate user interface CSS from structural CSS using CSS variables. I don't want to get into all of that, but basically what it allows us to do is have this new theme framework underpinning CiviCRM, which means that you can much more easily build different looking admin themes on top of that. And this project's been led by my old mate Nick the Stripe, he actually grew up with and knew long before either of us were involved in CiviCRM. The fact is CiviCRM that's who brought us back together after many years. And he's sorted out a lot of this very old CSS, from some of it from 20 years ago, to create these new themes in the admin area. So that anyone who has an older version of Civi installed will have to download an extension to see these new themes, but anyone who installs Civi from scratch will get them automatically. This is not too different from what you've been used to. This is the Rivoli Minetta theme, and this is what used to be called the Greenwich theme. So you've still got kind of the flavor of that old theme, but it's tidied up a little bit. But then we have these other new look as well you can choose from in the admin area. So this is the Rivoli Hackneybrook theme. This was formerly called Finsbury Park. These are all named after sort of rivers or underground rivers, basically in the vicinity of whoever developed these themes, so that there is some consistency to the naming here. You might be familiar with this theme. This used to be called Shoreditch theme. This is now Walbrook in Rivoli. And finally, this one is the Thames theme, and this was formerly called the R theme. And this, and I get whenever I see this as well, because I think this is a really nice, clean, spacious theme. It's obviously all the tabs that you saw. It used to be across the top of the contact record in Civi. They're all neatly down the left-hand side now, and it just, for me, it does improve things a lot. And I believe that this is the version of the theme that the Civi core team are going to be using more in their training videos and when they're working with kind of showing demos and things like that. You might not know, but there's also a dark version of that same theme. In fact, there's dark versions of all of these themes. So this is Rivoli 10's theme. So you can work with Civi in dark mode as well now. So if you haven't used the themes before and you want to give them a try, obviously you will need to install that Rivoli extension if you've not got that installed already. But the way to find that is to go into the administer menu there in Civi, go to custom data and screens and display preferences. And then at the bottom of those settings, you'll see that you can choose a new backend theme from these different screens, a new front end theme. And you can also choose whether that's dark mode or light mode. The next thing I want to show you is a really simple thing, but if you don't know that this functionality exists, then it's just really handy. So I think this was added in 2020, but you're probably like me. If you're like me, you've gone into Civi and you'll have thought, right, I want to do this in Civi. I know it's somewhere in menus, but I have no idea where it is. And you then just go through each menu one by one and all the fly out menus and stuff until you find it. This is actually a menu search option in CiviCRM. So under the little iconing heading there, you can actually search for, if you know the name of the menu item you're looking for, you can actually search for it there. It's much easier to find things. I won't repeat what Craig just said when it's something.
I was aware to be recorded, so I didn't say it. Oh my.
Yeah. So, yeah,
That's been there for 5 years. Oh, yeah, that's not what Peter and I been jabbing about to me. I don't know when you. I think it was 5 years. Marcus only realised this week while shooting this video, so it's not just you.
So, if you're going to take one thing away from this session, that's probably it. Is anyone here using CiviMobile? So this is actually an app on your phone, and I've got it on my phone. So CiviMobile is actually made by another developer called Agileway. I hope I'm saying that right. It's also free and open source to use, and if you're running CiviCRM, you could be using this. And you can download it to your phone on Apple or Android OS, and as long as you have the CiviMobile API extension installed in CiviCRM, you will be able to hook this up. And what it does, it gives you a way of accessing, looking up all of your contacts on your database on the go from your phone. I'll show a little bit of the demo of this. So what happens once you've installed the CiviMobile API extension is you see in the bottom right-hand corner of CiviCRM this little QR code, and you can download the app to your phone and scan that QR code, and that will try and make the connection with your server then. And from there, it's a case of on your mobile app, I'll show you here, opening up the CiviMobile app, and then scanning your QR code. So that's going to open your camera on your computer, and you'll find a little code in that right-hand corner of the screen. Let's do that. That then makes connection with the API, and then you will log into CiviCRM just with your own username and password as you would normally. With that, then you're into your database. So whether you're planning adding activities to CiviCRM or looking at an organization or an individual in CiviCRM, you can see their contact details. And from there, you can also do things like if you click on their phone number, or either that you can make a call directly to them. You can obviously do a text message from your phone by clicking on that. An email address, you can open hit email to this person as well. So that's all handy. The other things that you can do are to do with there you go. You can edit the contact details there. If you do find that someone's details have changed, you can edit on the fly there. You can also do things like schedule activities in CiviCRM through the mobile app. So if you've met someone and you want to follow it up with a phone call or something like that, follow it up with an email or a phone call, you can set that up in the app as well. That will record it to Civi when you want to do that stuff. appearance can be assigned to. I can just see this being really useful when, we're out and about and we're making contact with people who could go along to things that have got no name. Quickly look it up on the app. So I think that can be really handy. I mean, the app itself does a lot more than that. It's not just for administrators. You can log into Civi with different levels of permission and be locked down just to see certain things in CiviCRM. Potentially, you could even let members log in to book events and things like this. I think the branding is hard. It's pretty hard to change that. So I don't know how well that would work. But I think just as a way of accessing the admin area to look up things, I think it's really handy. So nobody using that yet? No.
I don't think we will set up a downloader once I'll talk to.
We can assist them with setting up the back end. It might be that.
Yeah.
I did try and set it up for one organisation probably about 6-7 years ago to give them a way of adding volunteers and a lot of people onto events. So it was good, very simple user profiles that people can got people onto events. They can see what's, they've got a list and then they can go update from sort of like registered to attended. But yeah, I've since last got technical organisations. I don't know if it was never used in or what. I mean, I thought it was quite cool and then the other time, but
it's a really good use case. We've built quite a complex system for Tilo's organisation that does something kind of similar to that. But yeah, there's a simplistic way instead of that hen that would work really well.
So you've also get an iPad and there's people coming to the rock and then it's like
registration, people into events. Yeah, so I can see all kinds of use cases. It's I think worth having a look at. So now we're going to get a little bit more technical. This is not a demo of SearchKit. That would take an entire session, but I just wanted to introduce you to this new functionality in CiviCRM in case you'd not used it yet. So you'll all remember, the ways that we've been used to searching for information in CiviCRM. So there's find contacts, one of the most basic searches in Civi, and likewise there's things for finding memberships or finding participants or finding contributions. So there are all of these different searches in Civi to find different things. And then if that wasn't quite, that didn't quite do what you wanted it to, then there's the advanced search, which is just reams and reams of fields that you can kind of filter. And the advanced search is fine as long as you're wanting to kind of opt stuff in. But if you're wanting to say, well, contacts who are like this, but not like this, then you couldn't do that with that search. So then you had to start going into Search Builder and doing this kind of pretty ugly thing where you would say, oh, I want to include contacts who are like this, but not contacts who are like that. And we want ands and ors and equals and not-ins and all of this stuff, which I always found really, really complicated. So SearchKit is something has been developed by the Draw team for a while now. This is replacing Search Builder in the latest versions of Civi. What it does, it kind of offers this no-code way of creating custom searches in a slightly more user-friendly way, in a very powerful way, more than the Search Builder. And it'll do all of those complex lookups, like including things, excluding things, combining different things, and then having it all sorted in a certain way for the search results. And then you have custom views for the search results. So do you want to see them as their tables or lists, or how eventually you could have pie charts or things on a NAC and things like that? I think that's all will all happen at some point. So at the risk of falling on my face, I'm going to do a live demo of SearchKit. So this, you can find this if you're up to date with Civi versions. You'll find it at the bottom of the search menu here, SearchKit. Now, we have various searches here, but here's one that I was just going to give you a quick run through. So say we wanted a search that returns contacts on a database for whom we don't have a postcode. Like we really want a postcode for everyone on our database, and we want to quickly find people who don't have a postcode. So this is a search that does that. And if I edit it, you can sort of see how it's created. And so you call the search what you want to call it, using postcodes in this case. And then we go through these tabs on the left-hand side. You'll be used to in CiviCRM going through tabs when we set things up, whether it's events or contact records and things. So you then get to choose what you'd search for. And CiviCRM runs on the basis of different entities, and entities in Civi means can any different type of data, whether it's contacts or participants or contributions or memberships. So these are all entities, and in this case we're searching for contacts. And we're particularly interested in this case, contact addresses. So what we're going to say is if the primary address equals yes, there's a primary address, and then we're going to work through these other tabs. So the filter condition here is going to be if the contact type is an individual, because we're only interested in individuals who don't have a postcode, and the postcode field is empty, and the contact's not in the trash. We're not interested in people who've been in the recycling bin. Those are the people we're going to return. So under select fields, we want to know what we want to display in the report, and we want to basically display the name of the person and the postcode, which doesn't exist. So those are the two things we're going to display. We have the option to add some configuration settings like a description of what this search is. And once we've gone through those tabs, what Civi does is it converts this into a very scary looking API 4 call, which basically is what the database is doing to return those results. And yeah, this is stuff that you would have had to code yourself previously. And then we can define what the output looks like. So here we have our output. So button here, you can see you've got a display name. We've got a postcode. Well, we can do things in here like sort these results. So we can sort this by the name, ascending. We can choose how we want it to look when the output comes out. So we want row borders and odd even stripes in our table. You can choose various headers and footers, how many in pagination, how many people should appear per page. And then we've got our fields here at the bottom. So we've got our display name field, and we've got a postcode field. And the interesting thing about the postcode field is we've also ticked this thing which is in place edit, and that's going to be important later because we're not only just going to view the results, we're also going to be able to edit the results where we've got no postcode. We're wanting to show where there is no postcode. We want to give it a danger style. So when the postcode is empty, we want it to show in red. So let's just run a preview and see what this looks like. Okay, here we go. So this has found 3 people on our database that don't have a postcode. So this is our report basically, and we can do stuff with this. Now, it's not just a list of results. You know, we can come here and we can say, go to the action. Maybe we want to download a spreadsheet of those results. Maybe we want to email the people and say, hey, what's your postcode? Or to update them in some way. That is a very simple example of how you could create your own custom report to do something that is bothering you in a CiviCRM. There are many other examples. So this is Manz's hosting an online meeting today, and this is something that she's done in her organization. This is a search that basically just shows a table of how many people have subscribed to all different mailing lists that they run in their organization. So this is something that basically in this case, we're looking at contact groups. That's what we're wanting to try find, the groups in CiviCRM, in mailing lists in CiviCRM. And we're saying if people have been added to the database. So we're looking at these particular groups. So any groups that have parent user campaigns or NC groups, or the group title is book group. So these are the different groups we want to return. And then we're saying the filter conditions are where opt-out is not equal to yes, and do not mail is not equal to yes. So that's basically saying just show me everyone who's on the list and not anyone who's decided to opt out of that list, that mailing list. We're wanting to return a count in this case for those that field, just the number of people in each of those groups. And then we get the API for scary stuff again. But this then is the table that Mads has created for this particular report. So she's just wanting the group title and then the count of the primary emails for those groups. So the number of people who are in this mailing list. And that's what it looks like. Again, it's very basic, but again, it solves a problem. It says, right up from how many people are on each of our mailing lists today. So something that you can do yourself. You don't need to learn any code. You can go in, experiment with SearchKit and see what you can get out of it.
Well, 3 people now working on the chance of making up a ERC.
Okay, she's...
We got some love online for SearchKit as well. Mads is there, and also with Dave's William. Same news it regularly.
Great. Okay. The other thing about SearchKit is you can export searches as well. So if you know another organization that has got a nice search that you would quite like to be using, they can export from SearchKit and send it file. You can export it to your file. Obviously, that's not going to work if you're using loads of custom fields there, but core Civi fields, that should be exportable and importable into your database. So the final thing I want to talk about before we just open up for general chat is Form Builder. And this sort of goes a bit hand in hand with SearchKit. So SearchKit is about, forming those complex database queries. Form Builder is about a few things. So similarly, Form Builder is something that's been built by a member of PD core team and other people contributed over the last few years. And what it does is it allows a new drag and drop interface so you can create your own forms in CiviCRM. And that could be for new backend admin forms in CiviCRM. It could be, and I'll show you this in a minute, it could be like dashlets that you want to put on your dashboard when you log into CiviCRM, if there's certain forms that you would like to see there right up front when you log in. It could eventually be about front-end forms. So previously in Civi, we've used a lot of profiles often to take the web registrations or to get people signed up as members. Or back in the day, we were using Caldera forms in WordPress or Drupal views. So these are all different ways you could plug forms into CiviCRM. But what Form Builder gives us is the option of actually doing that in core Civi and having a much more flexible way of creating forms in Civi, including things like conditional logic. And, we're hoping that eventually that will be able to be used in things like membership signups, event signups, where even payments are involved. Again, this is something that if you run Civi for a while, you will need to install an extension to see Form Builder. But if you're installing Form Builder Civi today, I believe it's bundles. So, at the risk of another live demo, so this is Form Builder in CiviCRM, and I have no idea how to find that, so I can just go into the search menu here, and it's that. So that's really handy. So there are a few forms that you'll find that are bundled with this. So things like new individual. So this is a way of quick adding an individual. If I click on that, you can see this is just a very basic form. First name, middle name, last name, email. This will get contact record into Civi, and that's a very basic form. So you can see how it could be used. My quick add organization, it might just be the name of the organization and the email. So easy stuff. So just a way of getting information into Civi quickly without having to open a new contact record. So there's all of that stuff about how you would submit data into Civi, but Form Builder does more than that. And we have this thing called search forms, and this is where Form Builder and SearchKit start to work together. So you'll remember the missing postcode things I showed you a minute ago. You could create a form for that SearchKit that returns contacts, individual contacts with missing postcodes, and embed it in your dashboard. So here, I'm going to go to edit this Form Builder form. And this allows us to create a new form in Civi. In this case, it's missing postcodes. And I'm going to give the access to this board to anyone who can access Civi in the backend. So this is available to anyone who has backend edit rights. And I can place that on a page on a website as well for people to access it. But most importantly, I'm going to expose this to the dashboard dashlet in Civi so we can use this form on the dashboard. And then we have this, basically, what is the form that we're adding? In this case, we're adding the missing postcodes table from that search that we created a minute ago. So we've got this missing postcodes table now. So we're just basically using this form as a wrapper for that search results, for the search kit that we had a look at a minute ago. Let's view what that looks like here in Civi. So that's the form, again, that we had a minute ago. And I can do all the various actions, that we had before. But the really good thing that we can do here is if I come to the Civi dashboard, so let's come to the Civi dashboard here, because we made this available to the dashboard as a dashlet, we had it here as well. So if you dragged and dropped here, and then great thing about this is if I now know Andy's postcode, I can add it right there. And Andy's name disappears because he's no longer not got postcode. And I can just go through here and quickly have those, and it all works. And it's just a widget, and it's something that you can build. So the potential, I think, is that it's how long you have to play. You got over to play with this stuff. But I'd be really interested if you could go away and have any creations of your own that you want to put in place to make your own life easier, or do share that stuff with us. So let's come back here. So done those things. So those are my 6 things from the past 6 years. Sorry it took us so long to get back to having an event. But the main thing I think these meetups are about are to share experience and to ask questions. So really, I'll just throw it open and you can just have a chat.
William mentions that you can combine Form Builder with tokens to allow members to update their own profile, even if they don't have a user account. Sounds interesting.
That does sound very interesting. Nice.
And so I should mention that William held the fort very well for the last 5 or 6 years since COVID. William has been running the WordPress Northeast England meetup online since the lockdown happened. And I think probably Northeast England meetup is a bit of a misnomer because I think there's as many people from kind of Latin America in terms of Germany and Holland and all kinds of places now. So they will descend on Civi Northeast Meetup now. So that's a huge thing. And so that's something you can also get involved in.
See, with the Civi Standalone,
Yeah.
we still have different level access. So you probably thank you for that's wouldn't change.
Yeah, I've not used Standalone myself, but there are access control levels and permissions that can be set up in CiviCRM, which might be around what functionality in Civi that certain different logins can see. It might be about even what groups of contacts people can see or edit when they log in as well. So it's quite fine-grained, the permissions that Civi has.